So I've been wanting to make my own everyday carry dump tray for a while, and I've also wanted to experiment with resin epoxy for a little bit. I know everybody's doing it, and I just try to kind of put it off as long as possible, and it's super expensive, and I'd rather spend that money on something else, given the choice, to be honest. But I bought a small amount and some color, and decided to put it into this piece of wood. It had some really cool figure in it, and it had this big void in it as well that probably normally would have been thrown out. But I decided, you know what, let's do this, let's give it a shot. So let's show you how to do it. So the product I went with is the Total Boat Deep Pour Epoxy. I decided to give this product a try. I heard a lot of good things about it. So I just mixed up a small amount and then just coated that void, and that's going to help make sure I don't get any bubbles and make sure everything's coated. And so I'll let that set up for about a day. After that, I mixed up my batch 3-to-1 with this product, and then used Eye Candy Sora EO Blue, and it turned out really nice. I think it's going to give it a nice contrast between kind of a nice metallic blue with Black Walnut. All right, so the resin has had time to cure, and I think we're ready, and I'll just show you how I kind of did this and the mistakes I made. I took a piece of packing tape, just clear packing tape, put in the back, and I went around that edge with hot glue all the way around a few times, and I didn't quite get all the spots for some reason, and I actually had to take this thing and dump it out and pour this thing out, so that's why I've got resin all over kind of the top of this, because it just goes in here. But then I just took some more hot glue and went around that edge again a few times, and obviously this is my first time. So if you've got any tips for kind of securing this and for sealing, especially wood, I'd really appreciate it. So, and then just to kind of make a dam, I took some hot glue and I went around the top of this, and that way the resin was able to kind of sit a little bit higher than that piece of wood, and that actually worked out pretty good because this will cut off really nicely and won't be a big deal. And even on the back side, I got a lot of glue there, but taking that off with the lathe and turning tool, it's not going to hurt the tool, and that should be fine. So I already kind of drew some circles on here as far as kind of where I wanted it, and so the one I've got is right here, so I'm going to go ahead and just draw that circle on and find my center point, and we're going to get turning. So I rough cut where I had that circle with the bandsaw, and then also used an owl to kind of create a center point on the piece so I know where that was located. I made it a little bit bigger as well, just to give my tailstock somewhere to locate on. After that, I'm just going to create a foot on the front side of this catch-all, and then it's going to give somewhere for the chuck to grab onto, and then I'll just work on the back side of the bowl first. Now this is just a friction fit between the chuck on the back side, which is just open, and my tailstock, which is working out pretty good. And I also just run this at a really low speed just in case it comes off, but I really have never had a problem just creating a foot on most of these pieces. After that, it's time to flip it around and then mount it to the chuck. So on the trays I make, I try to keep them as flat on the bottom as possible. That just keeps them from rolling around. So I'll go about 2/3 from the center to the outer diameter flat, and then I usually put a radius, the rest of that 1/3 around the outer edge, just to kind of give it a nice shape. So I was pretty happy with the outside shape of this tray. So now it's time to create a foot and then do some sanding on the outside before flipping it around. So with the outside done, now it's time to do the inside. And with this hot glue, this comes off really easy with the turning tool, which I'm pretty happy about. So this is already looking good just from turning, and usually when I sand, getting down to these final steps here, I'll start with 220 and then usually work my way up to 400, 600 grit. One thing I learned quickly was that I had to slow down the RPMs when I was sanding, just because the epoxy heats up a lot faster than the wood does. But just slowed it down a little bit, took my time, and came out with a really nice finish. I used Doctor's Woodshop product on this, which is shellac and a wax combination, and it works really nice. It's a nice friction finish on this and really lit up this piece when it was done. So this project turned out pretty cool. I really like the blue and the contrast with the black walnut and how that turned out. It's even like a little translucent if you hold it up to the light, and it's really cool. So if you want to check out some other projects I've done in the shop, there'll be a link right there to check those out, and we'll see you in the next video.